There is a moment in every life when you decide to rise, to stand taller than your fear, to speak louder than your doubt, to chase the vision that sets your soul on fire. This is that moment. And here, we walk it together with stories that awaken, voices that inspire, and truths that set you free. This is Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald, where hope has a voice, and that voice is yours. And welcome to the show, everybody. My name is Kevin McDonald. Rochelle is right there, and we've got a great guest today. And this is a really important episode because we're going to talk about real life and what happens near the end of life, and how young people and older people figure it all out kind of together. Her name is Shari. Oh, why don't you introduce her, Rochelle?
Okay, I'd love to. We have Shari Ross here with us today. She has a website called Senior Living Made S.I.M.P.L.E. So thank you for being here, Shari, to have this conversation with us. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks, Rochelle and Kevin. I'm so happy to be here.
And she's also got a book and a workbook, because that's going to be necessary, I think, for everybody that is going through this. Senior Living Made Simple. It ain't so simple, Shari.
It's not. It's not simple at all. It's a very, very tough subject and tough thing to go through when you are helping a loved one or you are the senior yourself. Aging is inevitable, but it is not easy. And there's a lot of tips and tricks along the way that hopefully I can, tell to your audience today, and maybe they'll find more information in the book and workbook.
Well, it is a vital piece, because I found out yesterday on my favorite Facebook channel that gentleman that I knew, he was on KKNW 1150 AM for 25 years. And I found out he was 75 and he suddenly passed away. And so I, when you get to be a little older, and my high school sweetheart has passed away, my best friend from high school has passed away, a lot of, my brother's passed away. Have you noticed, Shari, that a lot of people go through that, where it's almost like a contest to see who's going to make it through, and all these people end up just kind of, oh dear, and going away and stuff. Is that a thing?
It's a thing. I think that, it's a really hard thing, especially as we age and as we get into our 70s and 80s, especially where we start seeing kind of our friends and all these people that we knew our whole lives sort of dropping like flies, unfortunately. I mean, it's the cycle of life. We all will die. And so my whole thought process is that, during this kind of very fragile time of life, in between, like, say, after retirement until, end of life, let's try to make that our fourth quarter. And let's try to make it the best it can be. Just because you're older doesn't mean that life ends and that you have to just sit there and wait to die. We have a whole bunch of time left. And whether you're, physically, disabled, or even if you have some dementia, there's ways to create a quality life. So we all just need to learn how to do that. And then the other big thing is learning how to prepare for all of this ahead of us, so that we're not just figuring it all out in the moment, because there's no time for that. We have to prepare and prep ourselves and prep our loved ones, and that creates a lot less chaos and confusion in the long term. So, there's definitely techniques and things to know of how to do that.
Well, and the other side of the coin is you've got someone like Rochelle. Hey, Rochelle, how you doing?
Good.
You're a younger person, and you've got parents, and you've got grandparents. You've even got a great grandpa that's still with us. So that's the other side of it, isn't it, Shari? Because she is got all these people that she needs to look at and that are nearing the end of their days here, and it's got to be tough for them too.
Absolutely. I think at every stage it's tough, because you've got all these loved ones that you're kind of looking out for. But then once you get into the sandwich generation, which is more like my age, I'm not saying my age, but somewhere in there where you've got, either teens or adult children, plus you've got a career, plus then you also have your aging parents. That's a tough spot to be in, because you're getting pulled from all these different directions, and you can't do everything. So you can't be 100% for your aging parents. You can't and also focus on all of these other areas in your life. So that's kind of I think the sweet spot of where it gets really, really difficult. Not that it's not at all times, but I think that's where you're getting pulled the most.
Yeah, and Rochelle, your mom is the one that she's next in line to be the sandwich generation, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, she's pretty much there. Yes. And that's why it's difficult. And even for me, Shari, like I'm an only child. So on both sides of my mom and dad and down the line, anybody who goes before me, I am in charge of them and their stuff. And like even my great grandpa, if it it trickles all the way down now to him from my mom and to me. And it's I've noticed too that when you get to a certain age, you don't really care about having all this stuff. A lot of times the older people in my life are like, oh my gosh, like I just have too much stuff. And they want more interaction. They want more person. They want their time to be meaningful, but it's hard for them to figure out how to do that. And they're less willing to communicate. Like my great grandpa has a friend he's known since, I think middle school, because he's lived in the same little town, and she lives just a few houses away. And we're like, go hang out with her, go talk to her. She cares about you. She's a genuine woman. It's like, oh no, I don't want to bother her. And even people my age say that. So all the way down the line, we hear that about, oh, well, I don't want to bother them. Or you hear the flip side of it, which is like, well, they don't spend enough time with me and they've got too much going on in their own lives. So finding that harmony is hard.
The balance. Yeah. Well, so I for about 15 years, I worked in senior living as a sales specialist. And so I met with families day after day after day, hundreds and hundreds of families who are going through this whole process of trying to figure out what to do with their aging loved ones. Do they, have them move into a community setting, or do they keep them at home, or, have a caregiver come in, or have a family member help them, or do they go to a CCRC, which is like a big kind of campus where it has assisted living, independent living, memory care, all in one. There's all these different options, right? So it's very confusing, and you have to really sit down and figure out, like, what are we doing? Which direction are we going in? And what I found is, of course, we all want to stay home. We want to live in our home. We think it's going to be wonderful to like age in place and stay there the rest of our lives, but it's just not practical for a lot of us. Sometimes our homes are not conducive to the aging well, whether it's, because they're not ADA compliant and they're not safe, or maybe you don't have any, family around, or, the people around you, the community. And like you said, I mean, life is all about that connection. It's not about things. It's not about stuff. It's really even not about your house. It's about connection. It's about people, and having those people around you, having friendships, having knowing that you're supported. So I highly advocate personally. I have seen time and time and time again how positive being in a community can be for seniors. To be around people, but yet have your privacy in your own apartment, but knowing that 24/7, there's someone there in case something happens, and you can make that choice of like going and hanging out with people, and playing cards, or, having a meal with a bunch of your peers. when you're living at home alone, you tend to isolate. And then it becomes this vicious cycle of like sort of declining, where you're physically declining because you're not really getting out and moving and doing things. You're cognitively declining because you're not actively using your brain and having conversations with people and interacting in the world. So there's a lot of decline that happens oftentimes when you isolate like that. So we really, I fully encourage seniors to have an idea in their head of like what would best serve them and how to then go about and get there, and that takes a lot of planning and a lot of effort.
Yeah.
Shari, I got to tell you, I live in a 55 plus community. It's a mobile home community. And you know what I found?
What?
There are a bunch of old people that live here.
Uh-huh. I love it when a 90-year-old woman or man will come into the community and be like, well, I can't live here. Look at all these old people. They're so old. And I'm always like, I'm just going to hold this mirror up to your face so you can see why what you're saying is so silly. But we don't think of ourselves as old, right? We don't want to ever think of ourselves that way. But, and we are getting there, and at some point we all will be. I want to say that I believe there's 11,000 new 65-year-olds every single day. So we're getting up there, and there's going to be a lot of baby boomers coming around. So this is going to be a huge issue, if it's not already, over the next 5, 10, 15 years, where we're all, that whole generation is going to be needing care of some sort, or to be in an environment where we're around our peers so that we are not isolated.
I hate to say it, but you are in a growth industry.
Yes. I mean, I hate to say it too, but that's what life is, I guess.
Shari, I have to ask you, have you found that there's a sweet spot? When are you supposed to have these conversations and plan these things? Because I will tell you, when somebody gets to 90 years old and then you're going over it, it becomes a lot more difficult.
Oh, yeah. Well, as we get older, I feel like the more older we get, the less inclined we are to change. So it does become harder and harder to make decisions that will, change our lifestyles. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, a lot of times what I see is that the decisions are made for us or for our loved ones when inevitably something happens, like a fall, where then they end up in the hospital, and then they end up in a skilled nursing, and then they can't live alone at home. It's not safe. So something like that will just create, an instant decision.
Yeah.
But then you have to figure out, well, what's next? Like, where am I going to go? And what's the best place? And all of those things kind of on the fly, which is never a good thing. So my suggestion, quite honestly, is once your loved ones retire and they're 65 plus, I feel like that's the time. I took basically a full Saturday afternoon. I sat down with my mother, who is, she's now 78, but I would say a few years ago, I sat down with her and we literally went through her whole wishes, her whole end of life kind of guidebook. So she put a book together, and it has, who are the power of attorney for health and finances. What are her end of life wishes? What are her directives? And all of the details of what she wants, so that there's no confusion. And I think that for a senior to do that with their younger loved ones, the people that are the caregivers, is such a wonderful, generous thing to do, because it helps everyone get prepped and prepared for what's ahead. So anyway, I say you sit down, you just ask questions, don't push, don't prod, don't force, don't, control the situation, but ask, what do you see yourself doing when you're not able to maybe live in the home anymore? Or how do you see the last quarter of your life going? So ask these kind of little questions, and it takes time. It's not a one conversation thing. You have to kind of plant the seed in their heads and, start talking about options and what they think they might want to do. Once you start figuring that out, then you can make the next move of, let's say, maybe going and touring some senior living communities, getting an idea of what's out there and what prices look like and how you're going to pay for it. And, getting all that information and your ducks in a row will make you feel so much better down the road when inevitably it happens and you have to make that decision.
And by the way, we're talking with Shari Ross. She's got a book, Senior Living Made S.I.M.P.L.E, and a website of the same name. We need to take a quick break, and when we come back, I have a story to tell you. It's kind of a sad story, but it is something that, unfortunately, as we get older, and Rob Spears is a gentleman. He was with KKNW for many, many years, and he's passed away. So, Brenda, we love you. Thank you. I'm sorry that Rob has passed, but he happens. Anyway, we'll be right back with Shari Ross. Rochelle is here, and I'm going to be here until I'm not here anymore. So we'll be right back.
They gave her crowns, but never freedom. They gave her titles, but never peace. The Girl of Many Crowns is the story of Judith of Francia, a woman born into power, yet bound by duty. In an age ruled by kings and scarred by war, she found her strength not in her throne, but in her heart. This is a story of courage, love, and the fight to be free when the world told her she couldn't be. Step into her journey, feel her fire, and see how one woman's choices changed the course of history. The Girl of Many Crowns, available now on Amazon Books, Kindle, Amazon Audiobooks, Barnes & Noble, Kobo, and BookBaby Bookshop. Order your copy today.
And welcome back to Positive Talk. My name is Kevin McDonald. Rochelle is right there. And I got to tell you, this is an extremely important episode for everybody, because I don't know either, unless you are lucky enough to wake up one day or not wake up one day and have that be the end. But many of us, that just doesn't happen this way. And so I have a friend. It's not me, but I have a friend, Shari, and I would love your advice on this. He is 80 or 77, 78. She is 73. She's had a bunch of surgery, so going up and downstairs doesn't work. They live in a split level, so she can't really go down the stairs very well. And he has been diagnosed with early stage Alzheimer's. And so the question that I have in trying to help them come up, they don't know how long he's going to be cognizantly available. I don't even know if that's a word, and she is partially disabled. They live in their house. They can't afford to move to an apartment because their mortgage, and I think this is a major big deal, their mortgage is less than it would cost to get into a 2-bedroom apartment. Mm-hmm. And he loves to putter in the yard and stuff like that. So he's a putterer. But at what point in time are they going to have to make that decision that he is going to need more care than she can provide, because she really can't provide much care for him? How does that play out?
Yeah, that's a tough situation. So do either of them drive still?
Yes, they both drive.
Not
well, and they drive during the day.
Are there family members around that help right now? Who is helping them?
No.
Nobody. Wow.
No, they've got 2 kids. One is virtually homeless because he lives in a van, and the other one is she and her husband both work. They have a couple of kids. Their life, I don't know if you know this, but their life is full and packed full of stuff, and so they don't have time to sit back and take care of them or their needs. And the other issue is they don't necessarily want the help because they've been independent for 70 some odd years. And so now they don't want to face that of what's going to happen. And so all I can get out of them is, well, we'll see what happens. It's like,
Not
this
good.
ain't going to end well, kids.
My
No,
great grandpa
so-
says the same thing.
Yeah, we'll just see what happens, right? That's never a good option. That's option Z. So don't take that option. First of all, I would say that first of all, it's very normal and natural for them to feel that way. But unfortunately, I have seen way too many times that anybody that has mild cognitive impairment, which is what it sounds like he's got, that develops into full-blown dementia at some point. And we cannot predict how quickly that happens. But as time goes by, especially if he's not, active outside the home and he's not, really getting the stimulation that is required to kind of sort of slow down the cognitive decline, then that's going to ramp up eventually. And again, I mean, it could be like next week. We don't know. It could be in two years where he gets to the point where he can't really manage things in the household. So, and then for her, what she can't take care of him. I would say, it doesn't sound like either of the children are super involved here. I would first of all encourage them to reach out to a geriatric care manager in their area. Or the local area on aging, because both of those can give really good resources, whether that means that they sit down and talk about their finances and see, okay, what would it look like if you sold the house? Just sell the house, not necessarily move into a 2-bedroom apartment, like you said, but maybe it's time to go into a community where they have a specific program for mild cognitive impairment and then ongoing into dementia. There are a lot of communities out there that do have these kind of like levels of care where you can go in, as a couple, where both of the spouses can get the care that they need individually. So for her, it's more the physical care. And so there would be caregivers and people who could physically, maneuver her around as needed. Help her with all of the tasks that she may need, like getting dressed or, escorting her to different activities and meals. But then for him, he could get maybe the stimulation with classes, with different activities that they provide for those with declining memory loss in general. And yes, it can be expensive, but there are ways to find ways to pay for it. I don't know their background, if they're veterans at all or were active in wartime, but no. Okay. So that's one thing that they could do is apply for Veterans Aid and Assistance benefits, if they were. And both the person, the veteran, and the spouse can also apply for those. And it provides a couple $1,000s a month that can go towards assisted living and care, whether it's inside or outside the home. Another option, which I always find really the best, is selling the home. That's your bread and butter right there. So if you're able to do that, that will go ahead and that will pay for at least several years of living in assisted living or memory care. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, and he loves to putter in the yard, and they've been there for a long time, and so he doesn't feel like. It's and that Shari, that is what makes it so hard, is that they're not planning ahead for the inevitable thing that's going to happen, whether they want it to or not. It doesn't matter. It's gonna happen.
And they don't want to end up in a nursing home, like a crappy nursing home, because that's what will happen. They're not going to be able to make that decision for themselves of where to go. And so they're going to end up, in a environment that's going to be way worse in the long run than what they can decide on right now. And in regarding him puttering around in the yard, just because he's got that yard that he's puttering around in doesn't mean that he can't find a different environment to putter around in. It will be a change. It will be a change for him. And that's what he's got to wrap his head around, and her head around, because you can still manage to do a lot of the same things and the same habits and the same daily tasks and the same puttering around kind of thing in an environment that's maybe not your specific house, right? So a lot of these communities have outdoor space and have little mini golf, actually, if he literally wants to putt, but they have gardens, they have outdoor space and walking, paths. And so it's not like you're just going to lose everything and you're going to be shut into like a little room. And then that's the problem, is that people don't know what is out there. So they're just assuming that it's going to be way worse than where they are now, when in reality, where they go, if they choose right, can create so much more independence. And they keep doing what they're doing. They don't lose that. But now they've got all this stuff at their fingertips that they don't have to now struggle to go get in the car, go and, maybe there's a movie theater inside the building, so they don't have to go to the movies. Maybe they, enjoy eating out, and now they have this restaurant or maybe two restaurants or a little bistro that they can eat in. But, now they got peace of mind that there's also care there. Somebody who can watch them, make sure they're good, but yet not all the time, just when they need it, and there's so many levels of that. So they've got to explore this now, not wait.
Exactly. And I agree with that wholeheartedly. But I can't broach that subject with them because they don't take it well. But
here's what I would say. I would say, hey, let's go have lunch. Go explore, go find maybe one or two places that you think would be appropriate for them, and just go have lunch there. You can ask the building or whoever the manager is and say, hey, I just want to bring my friends. We're going to go have lunch, just so they can see it. No pressure, no tour necessarily. Just go have lunch. Get them in there.
Oh, you don't know. You have no idea. That would be so. By the way, we're talking with Shari Ross, but Shari, we want to introduce you to a couple of gentlemen if we can. They are actually in Kenya. Burchelle?
Samuel says, greetings, brother Kevin McDonald, my younger sister Burchelle, and guest Shari Ross. Happy New Week, my good people. We are watching you live from Kibera Restoring Hope Center, based in Kibera slums in Nairobi, Kenya. This is our favorite program show. I would like to thank you for highlighting our feeding program to the world and the impact this feeding program has brought in Kibera slums in Nairobi, Kenya. God bless you all. Hi, Samuel. We love you. And the rest of his team says, hello, Kevin, Burchelle, and Shari Ross. Greetings. Thanks for hosting this favorite inspirational program and different inspirational guests. We are tuned in from Kibera slums in Nairobi, Kenya. And it is true. No matter where you are in the world, you also age.
Yeah. Yes. And different cultures handle it differently. That's for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, and the problem with our culture is we have some friends in the Philippines, and they are a multi-generational society, to where grandma and grandpa get taken care of by mom and dad and kids, and everybody works together. And it's not that way here in the United States. It's like the kids are like, hey, I'm living my own life. I've got enough problems. I don't need your problems as well.
Yep, peace out. So yeah, no, I know. And I wish it was different, but unfortunately, our culture is very career oriented. We're all busy. We're all running around. It's, a capitalistic society. So, we all have to be doing our things, and we don't necessarily, decide to have our parents live with us at the end of their lives. It's very stressful. And I
can tell you that I ain't gonna do that. I'll be in my car homeless before I go live with any of my children, because they got issues. I don't know who their parents were, but boy, do they have issues.
That's not good. Yes, no, I agree. I'm not about to do that either. So that's why we have to figure out a different option. And it's so perilous because one, we don't know what's going to happen with the healthcare in this country.
Oh my goodness gracious! It is getting crazy around here. And
Oh, yes.
by the way, we're talking again with Shari Ross, and we need to take our halftime break. And when we come back, but before we go, I want to ask you, because you worked in assisted living for a long time, what's it like when people move in but they never move out? And the room that you now have available, Margaret had last month, and then Margaret passed away, and you cleaned it. That must be the hardest job in the world.
It's not easy. You become very attached to the residents there, and you form these relationships with them. And so when they do pass, because inevitably they do, give it, whether it's 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, they do. And then you have to, unfortunately, kind of move on and kind of have somebody else move into their room. But it does leave a little bit of a hole, when you do grow close to these residents. I always had my favorites, and you miss them, and just like as if they're your own family in some ways. But it is also a business, unfortunately. So you have to move on and you have to rebook the room, and that's kind of life.
It is the way it is. Shari Ross is with us, and go to our website, which is Rochelle. It is.
Visit her website, also same as the book, Senior Living Made S.I.M.P.L.E. Buy that for yourself or maybe somebody in need and go through it. It might help.
And get the workbook, because you're going to need the workbook, because you've got to read the book and then get the workbook, because there's going to be stuff that you're going to have to figure out. When we come back, Shari, I want to talk about the financial end and how you, as the child of an aging parent, can get them to open up their books. And I got a story around that when we come back. We'll be right back, everybody.
You're listening to Brushwood Media Network, the best in syndicated talk, news, and entertainment shows.
Are you looking for your daily dose of inspiration? Stay connected to all your favorite shows, music, and news with the Brushwood Media Network app. From Positive Talk Radio to Greatest Vibes Unplugged and so many more uplifting voices around the world, everything you need is right in one place. It's easy to use, too. Always available and designed to keep you inspired 24 hours a day. Go to brushwoodmedianetwork.com and download the app, and you will always have Brushwood Media available on your smartphone. Download it now and make inspiration and music and conversation part of your everyday. And welcome back to Positive Talk. My name is Kevin McDonald. Rochelle is right there. Rochelle, what do you think of this whole conversation about old people?
I like it. The fact of the matter is you never really know when someone's going to die. I myself did my will a few years ago, like I needed to do that or something. But even for us younger people to be thinking about those things and learning about it for ourselves while we're helping, but also to set the example, to figure out what are we willing to do? Who are we willing to help? How sometimes older people, they can make their decisions for themselves, and they don't like when you even ask them questions about their decisions, but sometimes just being able to let them be heard and kind of talk about their life and their preferences. And like you said, Shari, it's not a one conversation. You got to kind of plant the seed and let it grow, and eventually it'll start to blossom. And a lot of times I think it's frustration because once you get to that age and you haven't thought about these things before, you have no idea. So providing a safe space to open up to them. And Kevin, if you ever need me, like we'll go do tours, we'll go have lunches, I'll find you the best place around the world. But also just being able to be there as younger people, we think, oh, well, we're always so busy. We have too much, but there's so much more to life than our busy. So just reaching out and telling them you love them once a week or whenever you can can make that big of a difference. So Kevin, I'll let you tell your little story because I'm curious.
And Shari, tell me if you've ever had this, heard of this happening or had it happen, and it's probably in your book. My mother was going to live to be 112. She was convinced she was going to live to be 112. Well, I get a call on a Saturday morning, and it was like a Tuesday or something, and my sister said, Mom died. I said, what? And she had, it was on a Friday or Saturday. She played bridge on, which, by the way, bridge is a game that old people play, but nobody else knows what it is anymore. And but she played bridge on Wednesday. She went out to dinner on Thursday. She was supposed to go to a party on Saturday. She didn't get to the party, and they found her in bed, passed away. And my sister had been trying for a long time, many times, to get her, Mom, you need to let us know where everything is and how all your finances are done so that we can find it easily and we can help you out with it. She never would do it. Never would do it. So after she passed away and we were cleaning up her house, there was a pile of stuff that included something marked CD case. And so I opened up the CD case and there was one CD on the very top. And I took the shelf off of the top, and underneath that was an envelope. That envelope contained her birth certificate. It contained her marriage certificate. It contained other important papers, and not to mention $35,000 in savings bond. That was in the pile to throw away. That never happens, does it?
Never. Oh my gosh. I can't tell you how many families come to me and they're like, okay, we've got Mom here. She's got to move in. I don't know where any of her financial documents. I don't know anything. I don't know who the power of attorney is. I don't have any of it. I don't know if she's got a long-term care policy for insurance for long-term care hidden somewhere in a box in her basement. Like, she hasn't told me any of this. So basically then they have to go on this scavenger hunt through the house to find everything. And sometimes it's successful, sometimes it's not. But that's why it is so vital for seniors to make sure you've got everything, put it in one spot, and make sure somebody knows and put somebody in charge of it, because inevitably you're going to pass away and somebody has to deal with all the stuff that comes after. And in some ways it's kind of nice, not nice that your mom died, but nice that she died without you having to deal with all of the, having to place her in a community or senior living, or that she didn't go through dementia or any of that. So that's actually kind of nice. A lot of us are living so much longer now that inevitably we need one of those options. And that's where, a lot of planning comes into place. But in terms of the documents, make sure that's part of actually my book, the Senior Living Made S.I.M.P.L.E. S.I.M.P.L.E is an acronym. Each letter stands for a word. And one of those words, the P in S.I.M.P.L.E, is preparation. Preparation meaning gather documents, gather all the legal documents, the financial documents, get it all in one place, make sure somebody knows what's what.
It's really weird. I had no idea, but because I don't think we don't talk about it in this culture. But when somebody passes away in like their bed, or I was talking to the people who came and they said that, and I didn't know this was the thing. Did you know that people pass away on the toilet while they're passing? You know what I mean? And stuff.
Yeah.
And but there are services, and Rochelle, you could do this if you wanted to, because you're young and strong. They go into the house where somebody's passed away, and then they pick them up and do whatever they need to do, and they take them to the mortuary. I could not imagine that job.
No. I'd be way too emotional. I'd be crying and trying to hug the person. I don't even know who they are. I'd probably see them somewhere in the house and hear them talking to me and wouldn't be able to say anything about it. But to think too that there's, even for younger people, like, are there documents that, like, maybe just one or two of them that we don't think about that matters so much when that time comes that we doesn't cross our mind?
Well, I think first of all, you're so smart and like oddly just prepared to have already done your will at your age. So kudos to you for that. I mean,
Yes. I
I don't
update
think
it
I
every
did.
once in a while, just in case.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, most people don't. I just did mine, and I'll say it. I just turned 50, so like that's kind of old to have done it. But I would say like once you have like a job and you're, maybe have kids and a house, you don't want your house and your things that you own to go into probate. So I would definitely suggest doing a will, having just everything on paper there. And then also just make sure that all of your financial documents are kind of like organized. So like if you have a 401k or an IRA or, any of those or stocks or whatever it is, savings accounts, just make sure that they're, kind of in order in terms of the account numbers and any passwords. Seal it up, maybe just tell somebody that you're close to, that you trust, where this stuff is and how to access it all, so that at least you got somebody. I mean, that's my biggest fear is like when I pass away, it's not really the passing away part for me. It's making sure that the people that, I love and that are somewhat dependent on me in any way, are able to carry on and access all of the things that I have for them. So I think that's my biggest concern in life, is just making sure that's all available to them.
Yeah, and then life has its way of throwing little wrenches into everything all at the same time. Because I wrote my will 10 years ago, and my mom was in it, and my brother was in it, and they're both passed away. And my oldest son was executor, but he and my youngest son do not talk. So now and my sister is too old to do that. And stuff. So now it's like, okay, if I were to go tomorrow, can I be assured that my oldest would follow the will and the dictates of the will to the youngest? And all of that kind of stuff, because the things change. So you really should update it on a regular basis, shouldn't you?
Definitely, you should. And you should also have a relationship with an attorney that, can maybe help to smooth any issues out.
Ruffled feathers and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, because believe me, you're not alone in having either kids that don't talk or, a sibling that you don't talk to. I mean, unfortunately, families aren't always so cohesive and beautiful in la la land. So there are issues that arise when people don't get along. Also in the way of, when you're trying to place a loved one in a senior living community, for example, and one sibling or one child lives nearby and the other child lives, across the country perhaps, and isn't seeing what's going on and doesn't know and isn't involved, and maybe you don't get along, that creates a lot of conflict in terms of what happens next with mom or dad. I always say, like, assign one child one duty and one child the other duty, so that they both have their place in everything. So one person maybe just does the healthcare stuff and one person does the finances, and they do their thing and that's it. They don't need to get along in order to do that necessarily.
Well, and that's why being an only child is going to work great for you. Because
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, in a way, it's a little heavy because it all, like, everybody's stuff at one point might become mine, which is like, ooh, oh my gosh.
A lot, but
my people have
easier,
some
though.
cool stuff. And the same thing happened with my grandma, Shari. Like, it was difficult because she had written her will, but it wasn't specific. It was not really well thought through. And we worked with what we could, but losing her and then having collision in the family is so avoidable by just being very specific about who does what and why. And I know we need to take a quick break, but I'm really curious, if somebody doesn't have someone like me, they could be like, yeah, just to give you all my information, I trust you. And they don't have a one person. Is there other organizations or businesses or things that offer those kinds of situations where there can be one specific person other than the attorney that knows all the stuff and how that kind of works? So Kevin, I'll let you take us to break.
I said that's an excellent question. I don't know the answer to that, but I hope there, and sure, I got to ask you, and before we go to break, that would be a budding industry all by itself. A professional a professional executor that doesn't have any skin in the game, that isn't going to do any of the stuff, because when money's involved, I don't know if you know this, but when money's involved, people get stupid.
Yes, they do. They do. There's so much emotion involved attached to money that the emotion kind of outweighs your intellect, and you start making all these stupid mistakes. So yeah,
That's great.
gotta get that.
I love the way you say that. And by the way, if anybody who's listening, we also do a music show on the Brushwood Media Network at 9 a.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday. It's called Greatest Vibes. Listen to this. Not every song changes you, but the right ones do. At Greatest Vibes Unplugged, we share music that hits deeper, no filters, no noise, just pure sound with soul. This is your reminder that light still exists, and sometimes it sings. And remember, you can look up in the sky and see the stars, but still not see the light. And welcome back to Positive Talk with Rochelle. That's her right there. My name is Kevin McDonald, and we have Shari Ross with us. Go to our website, which again is Senior Living Made S.I.M.P.L.E, and S.I.M.P.L.E is an acronym. I gotta ask, what's the acronym stand for?
It is a framework. It's just a framework to help simplify the whole process of figuring out senior living and what to do. So S is for support, which because we cannot do this alone, or we shouldn't do it alone. There's so much involved, and you can't do it without the help of friends, family, professionals, social workers, geriatric care managers, etc. So please have support, have somebody around you. I is for information, just gathering information ahead of time, making sure that you know what's out there, what are the options, and how to navigate them. M is for matching, which is making sure that when you choose a community for a loved one, or they choose a community, that you're matching to not only what their care needs are, but what their aesthetic desires are, and making sure that both of those things meld. So you don't want to choose a community with 200 people for a mom that is a very antisocial, doesn't want to be around a lot of people. Let's maybe look at a 6-bed, a boarding care home, which is just six individual rooms. Maybe that's a better option for her. So match according to care level and needs. Not just, how the place looks. If they have a gorgeous chandelier in the lobby, let's not choose that just because it's beautiful. Let's look at all the different options. P, as I mentioned before, is preparation, making sure you have all your ducks in a row, legally, financially, having everything in one place so you know where to find it and what to do with it. And then L is letting go of guilt, letting go of, thinking that you're not doing things the right way, and just knowing that you're doing your best. And that's all you can do. You're not Superwoman. Just do your best and let go of that guilt. In addition, letting go also means letting go of stuff, not holding on to all the objects, the 50-year-old antique dining table, because you can't necessarily bring that with you to where you go. So you got to let go of stuff, because really in all, really in the end, the quality of life and the connections, all of that is really what's going to matter. the most. And then finally, E is for engagement. So even after a loved one moves to a community, perhaps, or if they're still in the home, make sure that we're engaging with them in a way that now, instead of being a caregiver per se, you're engaging as a daughter or a son or a spouse, and doing things with them that, enlighten them and give them some real things to do each day. And you're not necessarily, you're not the camp counselor, you're not the teacher, you're not the manager, you're not the caregiver, but you're there as a support, to just make sure that they're getting enrichment in their lives and getting the feel that they are still wanted in this world.
Well, there is that, because a lot of people, and Brishelle, I've told this story a lot about my dad, that was an executive for Nordstrom for 30 years. And when he retired, he became just Jack. And Jack didn't know who he was and didn't have anything to do. If I'm not getting paid, I ain't doing it, and stuff. And so he ended up he fell, which happens. By the way, do you have statistics on that? Because I am a statistic. Do you have any idea how many people fall?
A lot. I have to look it up I think I have it actually in my book, but I don't remember at the moment. But it's a very high number. And many of the falls as a senior end up we end up in the hospital. And then there, unfortunately, does sort of make things in addition to potentially the injury from the fall. Once you're in the hospital, it just kind of goes, and you start getting different conditions from the hospital stay or from the skilled nursing, and it just sort of rolls into other things. And so the biggest thing we can do is either one, protect ourselves from falling by kind of keeping ourselves healthy. And that means moving as much as we can throughout our lives, maintaining flexibility, and trying to just keep our bodies strong, our muscles intact, our bones intact. But, inevitably, if you fall, hopefully you are in a place around other people who can help you out and, get you up off the floor and get to the hospital if need be.
I have to tell you, Michelle was so funny because I generally speaking, if she calls me or if anybody calls me, I answer all the time. And if I don't answer, there's suddenly red flags going everywhere about, is he dead, do you think? We don't know what happened, and stuff. And I have fallen and have had rotator cuff surgery and tricep surgery, and I broke my wrist and stuff. So I guess maybe and that's why they're looking at me. She looks at me like, you're an accident waiting to happen, dude.
Oh my God. Here, wait, I have a statistic. Okay. So 1 in 4 adults, 65 plus, falls each year. And that leads to over 3 million ER visits annually. So yeah, it's a lot of falls that we deal with.
Yeah, and now, fortunately, I live, like I said, in a 55 plus community, which I think they need the fire department needs a substation here because they're here so much.
At assisted livings too. Believe me, they come every day. They're there all the time. They get to know us on a very personal basis. And same thing. Anytime you're over 50, I think that they should just be like right there.
Yes. So, Brishelle, we're making this sound like a lot of fun to get older, aren't we?
Yeah, I didn't think I was even going to live to the age I am now. So I don't know what's going on now.
Oh my God.
I'm just going to roll with it and keep doing those. But even I've learned, Shari, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's things that you can do, things you can buy, like even on Amazon, like put the railing in the house or, put some sort of string that will ring a number or
Yeah, there's a lot of technology too these days, where you can, like, say you can have like a medication, electronic medication kind of little device where it reminds you to take the medication. If you take too many pills out, it's alerts you. You can attach it to something where your loved one, maybe in another state, has access to also get alerts too to help out. There's camera devices. There's fall devices where, like, if you fall down or hit the floor or whatever, it automatically calls for the calls 911 for you. There's the alert buttons that you can wear, the little pendants where you can press if you've fallen on the ground.
Help
Maybe
me, I'm falling and I can't get up.
Kevin will get you like an Alexa or a Google, and you could be like, "Hey Google, call 911." Just in case.
And then, of course, you can redo your bathroom, your bathtub. I would recommend not having a bathtub as an older person. Have a walk-in shower with maybe a bench. You can have bars put in, railings, and all of those things. But in the end, at some point, you're probably going to need in-home care when you're, really truly disabled. And that's a whole other issue because you're having to schedule people to come into your house. It's not always easy. A lot of people call out sick, and then you've got to, reschedule. And it's like, and if somebody's managing it for you, it's like a part-time job for them. So that's another thing to consider. Plus, it's expensive to have people come in, especially if you need them 24/7. So it's something to think about too. It can be way more expensive than an assisted living.
How expensive is it for like Alzheimer's care or a care unit that takes care of? I've heard that it's like, and I'm scared to say this, like $8,000 or $9,000 or $10,000 a month.
Up. So that's like base. That's like for an assisted living. Where maybe a little bit of it is included in terms of like laundry and housekeeping, and maybe possibly some medication management, some, activities, some transportation, and of course, your meals. So that's all included in there. But then if you need specialized care, like, for example, memory care, where the staff is highly trained and it's a smaller environment, then you're looking at upwards of $15,000 to $20,000. It depends where you live, what state you're in, and the type of environment, the type of place, because some are nicer than others, obviously. But I would say the cheapest I've ever seen for like a base just apartment, kind of 3 meals a day housekeeping situation would be like $5,000, $6,000. But it goes up from there, and then when you add in care, you're looking at anywhere from $10,000 to $20,000.
So insurance doesn't play the part it's supposed to once you get to that age, like we think it does?
No, Medicare pays for none of this. Medicare pays for no assisted living. It's all private pay. The only thing it would pay for is if you go into like a skilled nursing. Let's say you go in the hospital for a fall, and obviously, yes, Medicare pays for that. And then you go to skilled nursing, it pays for a certain, amount of time there. Or Medicaid also can take part, or you can use Medicaid as well, depending on the place, depending on the state. But once you enter an assisted living or a memory care, that goes out the window. There's no more Medicare, Medicaid, nothing. It's private pay. There are some places I know, like near me in California, there's a few assisted livings that have opened, or that were private pay, that have now started taking what we call vouchers, Medicaid vouchers, so that you can utilize Medicaid, but you have to pay down everything. You really can't have any other assets. You can't have, income. I mean, there's a lot of different rules that really lowers the bar of what will be accepted and what won't. So unfortunately, we all think, oh yeah, Medicare, I'll take care of, my old age, but it's not. No.
So what happens, because, and I know you know this, it's going to happen more and more because a lot of us have not prepared for our retirement years the way that we need to. And so what happens when you run out of money?
Yeah.
What do they do? Do they just say, over there's something called the Aurora Bridge here, which is a real high bridge, and they say you should go over there and jump off because. No, what's going to happen to older folks that don't have the means, they don't have the family, the kids don't have any money, and what happens?
Yeah, it's actually a big question mark in a lot of ways. Theoretically, Medicaid will cover the cost of a nursing home. Now, a nursing home and an assisted living community are two totally different things. Nursing home is not necessarily where you plan to be. It's much more hospital-like. It's not the nicest environment, right? But in the end, if you need a bed, you need care, that will be paid for by Medicaid. As of now, who knows what happens starting in January with or whenever the Medicaid cuts come out.
I have this feeling in my brain that I would end up in a nursing home environment with a roommate or two and an old TV, and my roommate suffers from flatulence in a lot that can clear a room at any given moment, and so then that's where you live. And then you get into your wheelchair and you go to the hallway and you sit there, and then you go have lunch, and then you go back to the hallway, and then that is like. So my sons and I have an agreement that if I end up in a wheelchair, they're going to take me to the Aurora Bridge, and they're just going to
well, Kevin, I'm sorry, that's not going to happen. Everything you just said is I'll fight them if I need to. That's not going to happen. I did that with my grandma, and to know that us as family could not financially do more, and just her, I mean, she was there for a lot longer than we planned, and that happens. Sometimes people live a lot longer than you have planned, and life takes different turns.
Exactly. I mean, that is unfortunately the truth, but there are different ways to pay for senior care that I think a lot of people don't know that are hidden. Obviously the biggest one is a house, but not everybody's lucky enough to have bought a house early on. And so there's nothing to sell. But if you do have a house, that's going to be number one. Number two would be your 401k if you have one, or any sort of retirement income or retirement savings. Make sure that as we're, if young people are listening to this, start early, really try. And unfortunately, a lot of us haven't, saved our whole lives. But that is definitely number two. Three, I mentioned before, is veterans benefits, if that applies. Also, Medicaid can come into play, but there's also, like, if you have a life insurance policy, sometimes those can be cashed out. Even a term policy can be cashed out, or sometimes you can do a reverse mortgage if you do have a house. There's other options hidden, but what I would absolutely recommend is talking to a fiduciary, a elder law attorney, or a financial, attorney that can really kind of guide you through your options, because there are some things that you can use, but a lot of us don't know about them.
Yeah. Well, Shari, sadly, we've run out of time. You're going to have to come back and talk me down from the ledge I currently am on.
No bridges for you.
And by the way, go to our website again, which is seniorlivingmadesimple.com, and get the book and the workbook, because you're gonna need it. If you're not lucky enough to just drop dead, you're gonna need it. And that sounds like a hell of an option. I get a choice. I can either drop dead or be in a nursing home for 6 months, smelling my next door neighbor. Oh boy,
it doesn't have to be that bad.
No, we'll figure out a better way for you, Kevin. Yeah, I promise.
So, Shari, anything else that you'd like to add before we go?
Well, I just think, the biggest key here is we are all going to age. It's inevitable. We are all living older, longer lives. So the biggest thing is to try to have a quality life. And if we can prepare as we age, that's the biggest thing. Just prepare both physically, financially, and legally. And hopefully we can be in a little bit of a better place when we finally do reach that time in our lives where we need that help.
Or have a young friend like Rochelle who swears that she's going to take care of me in my declining years. So,
good luck.
Yeah, no kidding. Anything else, Rochelle, before we go?
Nope. Thank you so much, Shari, and for the knowledge that you shared with our audience and for the time. And just good luck. We're excited for you and the voice that you have to share with people that they can choose that even in change, you can make it a fourth quarter. So I'll bring that to my grandpa. And Kevin, thank you for a show.
Love it. Thanks for
Thank you for being part of Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald, where stories inspire and voices remind us of what truly matters. May today's conversation give you hope, courage, and a reason to keep moving forward. And just remember, till next time, be kind to one another because each other's all we've got.